for millions of fans all across the globe, the World Cup is just so much more than a sports tournament, right? It's pure emotion. It's this massive, collective dream that we only get to experience once every 4 years. We all remember the iconic victories, the unforgettable heroes, and yeah, the devastating defeats. But man, the 2026 World Cup, it delivered shockwaves literally no one saw coming. It was an absolute emotional roller coaster that brought this unparalleled level of heartbreak for three deeply respected footballing nations.
And I mean that literally. The football world just stood completely still. In a mere 2 days, we watched absolute disbelief completely take over our social media timelines. If you were watching the matches, you saw the very real tears in the stadiums, while millions of other fans just sat silently in front of their screens, kind of unable to process what had just happened. Three incredible nations, each with massive, rich football traditions, watched their ultimate dreams just evaporate into thin air.
So let's look at Act 1, Germany, the fallen giants.
Germany's historical pedigree is just absolutely unmatched. I mean, between 1954 and 2014, they built this formidable dynasty, lifting that iconic trophy 4 times and really cementing their status as the tactical titans of the sport. But then, that invincible armor cracked in 2018. Coming in as defending champions, they suffered a completely shocking group stage elimination that left the global footballing world just stunned, searching for answers. Fast forward to 2022, and incredibly, history just repeated itself. Another devastating early exit in the group stage shattered their national confidence, really raising serious questions about their legendary discipline. So millions of fans truly believed 2026 would mark a triumphant new era of dominance. But instead, it culminated in a heartbreaking round of 32 loss that absolutely no one saw coming.
Now, the team actually performed well enough to reach the knockouts, but there, they were met with a really tense 1-1 draw against Paraguay, which was followed by a crushing 4-3 loss in the penalty shootout. Despite entering the tournament as one of the highest-ranked teams in all of world football, and despite commanding massive possession on the pitch, the German Giants simply couldn't convert all that incredible experience into a victory when the pressure was at its absolute highest.
Which brings us to Act 2, Netherlands, the elusive trophy. Just as we saw a giant fall in Germany, another sweeping upset shook a completely different footballing culture right to its core. We're talking about the brilliant inventors of total football, a team that reached the final 3 separate times with an unquestionable legacy. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast because that glorious history violently clashed with a brutal 2026 reality. After an incredibly tense, nerve-wracking 1-1 draw against Morocco, a golden generation fell 3-2 on penalties. It left them totally empty-handed once again, proving just how unforgiving this sport can actually be.
Moving on to Act 3, Japan, Samurai Blue Heartbreak.
Over the last 3 decades, Japan transformed into an undeniable global powerhouse, and they carried massive expectations into 2026. Let's break down why. First, their foundation is a deeply disciplined style. They are renowned for structural organization, rarely breaking formation, and executing tactical plans with absolute precision. That discipline is naturally amplified by extraordinary teamwork. Their synergy on the pitch is truly unmatched. You rarely see huge, selfish egos demanding the spotlight. Instead, it's a dedicated, collective unit that moves, breathes, and attacks as one cohesive machine. And finally, driving that cohesive machine is their defining fighting spirit. The Samurai Blue simply do not give up, relentlessly battling for every single ball, closing down space, and running with pure passion until the final whistle echoes through the stadium.
And all of those traits were on full display in 2026, even as their run ended in a valiant 2-1 defeat against Brazil in the round of 32. This was an incredibly passionate battle. Japan fought with literally every ounce of energy they had. And what's crucial to understand here is that despite losing, they went toe-to-toe with one of football's absolute greatest nations. They proved without a shadow of a doubt that they belong firmly among the global elite.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the sheer carnage of those 2 days looks when viewed all together. Let's break it down. First, Germany. Facing off against Paraguay, their run ended in a devastating 4-3 penalty shootout loss that shocked the entirety of Europe. Then, you have the Netherlands going up against Morocco. They suffered an almost identical, completely heartbreaking fate, falling 3-2 in their own dramatic, heart-stopping penalty shootout that ended the hopes of a nation. And finally, Japan. Pitted against the mighty Titans of Brazil, they went down fighting in a punishingly tight 2-1 defeat. 3 massive footballing nations, 3 incredibly tight margins, all packing their bags and going home.
It just goes to show you, rankings guarantee absolutely nothing.
Before the tournament started, all three of these teams, Germany, the Netherlands, and Japan, were highly placed in the global rankings. We're talking about squads fully loaded with star players from Europe's biggest and wealthiest clubs. They had experienced managers and entirely realistic hopes of making deep runs. But the knockout rounds? They're a completely different beast. It really underscores the brutal, unforgiving unpredictability of tournament football.
No trophy hurts more than the one you believe is possible. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. Think about the heavy, crushing silence in the fan parks. Thousands of passionate supporters staring blankly, realizing the dream is instantly over. Then picture the very real tears streaming down the faces of the supporters in the stands, people who traveled thousands of miles across the globe, pouring their hearts out only to witness such agonizing defeat. And finally, visualize the quiet, dignified respect of players bowing to their fans. It's a powerful, lingering moment of profound, mutual heartbreak shared between the warriors on the pitch and the faithful who follow them everywhere.
I want you to put yourself directly in the shoes of the fans, experiencing these incredibly specific, culturally contrasting reactions in the aftermath. In Germany, there were just silent fan parks, thousands of people walking home without saying a word, unable to believe another campaign had ended so abruptly in the European night. In the Netherlands, it was visible, raw emotion. Tears pouring in the stands as shattered players walked over to thank the Sea of Orange, whose hopes were just destroyed by penalties. And in Japan, it was proud applause and respectful bowing. Despite the agonizing defeat, the fans cheered for the incredible effort, showing us all the true, unbreakable bond between a team and its supporters, in both victory and defeat.
Which brings us to the ultimate lesson of this explainer. Past glory cannot win today's matches. It honestly doesn't matter how many times you won in the 1970s, or if you invented total football, or even if you completely dominate your continent. In knockout football, one single mistake, one saved penalty, or one brief moment of brilliance from your opponent changes history forever.
So, I want to leave you with this question. Will these fallen giants rise again, or is this the dawn of a completely new football era? Every time a tournament ends in heartbreak for these massive teams, it forces them to ask hard questions and rebuild. For the millions of supporters, the pain of 2026 will be unforgettable. But so will the hope. Because in football, every single ending is truly just the beginning of another dream. Thanks for exploring this explainer with me today, and keep asking those big questions.